Naruto would be the first of the group to finish his daily medical duties. As it was his first day, he decides to take a break. There's always tomorrow. No one is really in critical condition, and those who are pretty badly hurt or wounded could be taken care of by any old medical shinobi. So he would say he would wander the village. At first, his expectations were the people to lash out at him as they once did, as they might remember him from when he was young. But as he was leaving the hospital, he would be granted with thanks from doctors, nurses, and patients alike, as he had saved many lives today. And this would kind of warp his perspective, knowing that if he saved someone, they would be grateful regardless of who he is. But he can't confirm that. He doesn't know if they're aware of him being the Ninetales or not, so he shouldn't be too quick to judge. He would make his way through the village, encountering person after person who would merely greet him and even throw a smile and a wave. So he was really starting to change the way he thanked the villagers. And as he approached the playground he used to play at as a kid, he would look out over it. He would see kids playing with their parents, and he would kind of be sad at first, knowing that he never had an experience like this. And that's when he remembers he has Lady Tsunade, and if the villagers didn't treat him how they did, then he would have never met her. And he'd never regret meeting her, since she's the mother he never had, and Shizune the sister. He would smile as he would hear, "Such a drag," as someone would land next to him. A dark-haired boy followed by a rather large-boned boy would walk past him as he would turn back. He would give a large gasp as Shikamaru would turn around saying that, "Are you coming, Naruto, or are you just gonna stand there?" Naruto would at first rub his eyes as he could barely remember the two, the only two friends he had really had as a kid. There were a few others that got along with him, but these two really bonded with him, and he even remembers their names. He would yell out, "Choji? Shikamaru? Is that you?" With both of them merely laughing, saying that it's been a long time, and were actually curious about what had happened to Naruto after all these years. So they would ask if he was interested in coming on a group barbecue with them. At first he was confused, and they would explain that they're actually in a genin group together, and their sensei were gathering them for a dinner before and after missions, as this would be both a experience for them to talk out what had happened during the previous mission, and kind of a prep for the next. Naruto at first would decline, not wanting to impose, but Shikamaru and Choji would insist. He would eventually break under the pressure and join them at the restaurant. Here he would be reintroduced to Ino, a girl that had never really shown interest to him, but had never actually been rude to him either. And their sensei, Asuma, who was fully aware of who Naruto was. Naruto remembers this as he had seen him a few times around Sarutobi, and as he had entered the restaurant, Asuma had even greeted him with a, "Hey, is that Naruto? Naruto Uzumaki?" And this would spark a pretty interesting conversation. Obviously, at this point, Naruto isn't as willy-nilly about telling people that he's the Ninetales. He would openly admit that he is the Jinchuriki and would take any type of personal lashback that it would retain. Ino would actually remark on how cool Naruto is for keeping that monster sealed away, while Shikamaru and Choji don't really seem to care. Asuma, on the other hand, would give a laugh and say that that was a stupid reason for him to leave the Leaf, as this was his home. He unwillingly, or at least unknowingly, protected all these people from that beast. He would light a cigarette and almost be chased out by the waiting staff, as that's not necessarily allowed in the restaurant. So, Naruto would laugh it off and discover that even here in the Leaf, there are people who, even knowing that he's the Ninetales, are willing to be his friends, with these merely being the first examples. And he wonders who else wouldn't mind. Obviously, he can't just let any old civilian know, since they would most likely panic, and a panic in a village like this could never be a good thing. So, after eating, he would most likely return to the hotel or wherever they had been staying at the time to clock out for the day. The next day, Naruto would be awakened by the sound of sparrows, it seems, as their chirping would cause him to become aware of the daylight. He would sit up in his bed as he would realize that he's once again in the Leaf. with all the memories of last night flooding back. He couldn't help but to give an old classic Naruto smile, something he hadn't done in years. But nevertheless, he needs to get prepared to head to the Hokage Manor, a place that he was told by his sensei the day prior to meet her when he awoken. He would awake somewhere near midday, and as he would approach the manor, he would see things like pots and pans flying out of windows, and would pick up the pace to attempt to see what's going on, as he's aware both Shizune and Tsunade are in the building. And as he approaches the door, two Chunin would be standing, refuting his entrance. He would say that Tsunade had called on him, and they would just not be listening. He would warn them, saying that if they don't move out of his way, he'd be forced to knock them out. Both of them would laugh, look at each other, and pretty much get serious, as they would take a combat stance, revealing that they specialize in team combat. They would both jump to either side of Naruto, seemingly preparing to attack him, as he would just simply walk past them into the Hokage Manor, clearly outsmarting them. And as they were about to jump into the room, he merely closed the door in their faces. He would make his way up the stairs to be faced with his sensei, where she would see the two Chunin chasing him, and she would say that she forgot to inform them that Naruto would be coming. They would both feel like idiots and make their way back to the door, knowing that not only were they both outsmarted and outclassed, but they had done it for apparently no reason. They could have just merely sent one of them up and asked Tsunade if she was expecting anyone. Now they're looking like fools. On the other hand, Naruto would ask Tsunade what is occurring in the Hokage Manor. She would reveal that the grandson of the third Hokage is blocked up in his office and refuses to come out, since there is no other Hokage except his granddad. Naruto would ask if she wants him to knock down the door, and she would say that they can't deal with this with pure force. She had thought of it herself, but the kid is truly hurt. The last person he had left in life was that old man, and now he's alone. Naruto, seemingly sympathizing, would knock down the door regardless. Tsunade would at first try to yell at him, where she would see the kid standing in front of the door shocked, having seen everything he had used to barricade said door flying either side of him. He would walk past and close the door as he would sit against it. The people who were on the other side, mainly shinobi and assistants, would attempt to break open the door, but Naruto's seemingly unmovable body would prevent them from doing so. But of course, they wouldn't be aware what's blocking said door. He would sit there and inform the kid that he should sit beside him, but the kid, revealed to be Konohamaru, would refuse to do so, saying that Naruto should get out. This is no place for him. This office belongs to the third Hokage and his kin, so what is Naruto doing here? Naruto would seemingly get pissed off, as his facial expression would clearly change, and he would once again gesture, but more violently, for Konohamaru to sit down. The boy would simply gulp and take his seat next to Naruto. The blonde would start to speak, saying that he knows what Konohamaru's going through. With the boy at first wanting to rebuke, Naruto would continue. He would explain that both his parents died in the Nine Tails attack. And in fact, that's not only the worst part. The Nine Tails is sealed within inside of him. Konohamaru would be shocked, as he would glare up at Naruto, at first being more fearful than understanding, with Naruto continuing to explain. As he was growing up and it was exposed that he had the Nine Tails, people had started treating him more and more badly as time progressed. At first an orphan and then homeless, not even being allowed in any stores. He had no friends except for two, and they practically kept him sane. That is until the third Hokage, Konohamaru's grandfather, had asked Tsunade to take him under her wing. Konohamaru would be surprised. Why would his granddad help the Nine Tails? When Naruto would start explaining. He is of course not just a manifestation of the Nine Tails, but instead someone who is there to keep him bay, since his genetics kinda lined up with what the requirements for sealing the Nine Tails inside of a child were. He'd also explained that the fourth Hokage had sealed it inside of him since he was a powerful kid. He would smile and laugh, looking at Konohamaru, saying that if there was ever another Nine Tails break, he'd bet that Konohamaru would be the next host, since he's the only strong kid he's seen so far, and he's been through this village backwards, forwards, up and down all day yesterday. and this would seemingly cheer up the kid a bit. He'd explained that his life had been made much better by Konohamaru's grandfather, and even though he had missed the funeral, he still grieves on his part, since he knows what it's like to lose and gain somebody. Now he merely says that Konohamaru needs to go out there and find someone he could care about. He'd explained that Lady Tsunade is definitely worth the chair. Not only is she said to be just as powerful as the third himself, but she's also worth it. Look how he turned out. He's powerful, smart, and if he could say so himself, pretty beautiful, as he would once again laugh, saying that his life had been made better not only by the third, but his student Tsunade. So maybe Konohamaru should give her a chance. And if she doesn't meet up to his standards, he could just kick her ass later. The two would share a laugh as the tears in Konohamaru's eyes would kind of tense up. He'd explained that he didn't really have anyone except his granddad. His mom and his dad were practically non-existent. He doesn't really know much about them, and to see the old man go was practically seeing the last person he had left go. This is where Naruto would come to a realization, and ask the boy if his uncle isn't Asuma Sarutobi. He would confirm it, and Naruto would share the tale of the previous day, how Asuma was the first villager or at least the first person in the village in these last few days to accept him for who he is. The host of the Nine Tails and a pretty awesome person. So maybe Konohamaru should open up to more of his family, cause they seem like pretty good people. He should just give them a chance. And Konohamaru would come to a realization. He had been so attached to his grandfather, or at least preceding his grandfather, that he didn't really bond with many people. He had a few friends in school, but the likeliness of them actually being his friends and not just some random kids liking him because he's the Hokage's grandson is pretty low. Naruto would reveal that there are two kids outside of the office who are deadly worried about them. This obviously being Moegi and Udon. And this would cheer Konohamaru up some, as Naruto would ask him to prepare, as he's about to open the door once again. And as he does, you could see a bunch of people practically falling down as they were leaning against the door listening in. Konohamaru would suck up his tears as he would look at all these people and saying that they're scum and they should get out of the office, except Lady Tsunade. He'll give her a chance. He would then scream, "Moegi, Udon, let's go!" as he would run down the hall. At first, Tsunade would tense up, wanting to punch the kid, but Naruto would calm down his teacher and say that she should just give them a chance, just like they were giving her, since they might surprise her one day. She would relax and say that he's right. There's no need to get riled up at a mere child, leaving her to settle in as the Leaf's 5th Hokage. But with that out of the way, guys, this is going to be it for this part of What If Tsunade Raised Naruto. Yes, I know this part was a little short and everyone was hoping for it to be longer, but just as I said in the previous video, the next part of both this and that series will be at least 20 minutes a pop, as I didn't have much script to go off of for these. So I truly do hope that y'all enjoyed my little comeback here and are prepared for the large amount of content I will be pumping out over the next 2 months, as next month will be a daily uploading month, meaning I will be uploading every single day. And with that out of the way, guys, this has been your boy Six. Peace.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Subscribe for more.
Yada yada does it.